Hi everyone, and welcome to the pond. I am here to do another conscious conversation on energy leaks. So, as always, before we get started, I invite you to take a collective breath with me. So, we're taking a deep inhale through the nose, exhale completely. As we come to this safe space to center our mind and our focus on today's topic of energy leaks, I invite you to take what resonates. And I always say leave what doesn't, but be open to what doesn't resonate because there are so many different perspectives, right? And so let's be respectful of all perspectives. So today we're talking about energy leaks. And before I get started, I just want to say that conscious suppression is a form of dishonesty with ourselves, and it manifests despite how much we try to bury things and keep it down and forget it. All right, so consciously suppressing energy within yourself, constantly burying things, not dealing with things that are present for you, is a form of lying to yourself. It's a form of dishonesty. And that energy will leak eventually. It's never, no energy is completely gone when we suppress it. It's just simply stored. It can be stored in our memory, it can be stored in our subconscious. Sometimes it's stored in certain areas of the body, which cause us to hold tension. And so the body expresses energy in the form of action, in every action that the body can take, whether it's thoughts, whether it's our interactions with others around us, right? And so your body is just an avatar for the energy or spirit that sums up the whole of who you are. And sometimes we hold the energy of things that we try to suppress and we don't want to accept about ourselves, things that we don't want to face or come to terms with or try to understand within ourselves. And that's called consciously suppressing. It's lying to yourself, right? And so there is an action that the body performs in response to each case of energy that we hold. It's expressed in some way, whether it's suppressed or not. And these actions can be expressed in your health. It can be expressed in your reactions to others, to situations. It can be expressed in your preferences, in your emotional state or your mental state of being. And it can also be expressed in your internal bodily functions, the way you're digesting food, the way you're breathing, and things that we do second nature that we don't really notice, right? And so there are plenty of outlets of expression that our body takes to release or to express all of the energy that we hold. Some of the most known forms of expression for me are how I treat myself, how I treat others around me, and my mental and emotional state of being. No matter what I'm suppressing, all three of those areas are going to tell me that, hey, you may have suppressed me, but I'm still here and you haven't dealt with me yet, but I'm just going to keep growing until you deal with me, right? So suppressed energy leaks through these outlets. Subconscious or unknown energy leaks in more subtle ways, in ways like the people you attract or your personality or your discernment, the way you judge. These are things that we don't really take notice to, we don't pay a lot of energy to, because it's second nature. You don't really think about the people, the kind of people you attract, until you just really begin to deep dive in understanding yourself or deep dive in healing yourself. And so these are more subtle ways in which that energy, that suppressed energy, can leak out into our lives. So it can affect the people we attract, it can affect our personality, our judgment and discernment on things and situations. And these are outlets that we don't pay too much attention to. Consciously suppressed energy, on the other hand, takes a lot of energy to keep down, to keep suppressed. When you know something, but you continue to try to suppress that emotion or that feeling, it takes a toll. It causes a lot of stress on some of us. It causes some anxiety for some people because it takes a lot to keep it down, especially when you have the influence of your thoughts, of your memories that are going to give rise to that energy for expression. Every time you remember something or you're triggered by something that reminds you of something that you're suppressing, it gets harder and harder to keep it down, right? And that is what it's like when you're lying to yourself, when you're consciously suppressing things. And that energy is often leaked through the way we respond and we react, through the way that we treat others and the way that we treat ourselves, right? So a good example of subconscious suppressed energy could be a child getting yelled at. So getting yelled at as a child does more damage than it does teaching, right? It may make kids feel inadequate, unloved, or even aggressive at an early age. A lot of parents are like, well, I don't understand why my child is disobedient and he never behaves well. And children deal with a lot of things, and some things they don't talk about because they don't feel like they have the freedom to understand. They don't have that freedom for others around them to understand them, right? A lot of kids get talked at instead of having a conversation with. And so when you make a child feel like they're inadequate, a lot of kids suffer with not speaking up for themselves when they get older. They don't speak up for themselves. Or maybe they dealing with some confidence issues. They're really shy. They don't want to come out of their shell. And maybe in the worst case scenario, that child grows up to attract people and friends that inflict that same trauma of verbal abuse on them because they've always been tolerant and accepting of it with their parents. In most cases, kids don't have a choice but to accept it, right? And so those are subtle ways in which that energy can leak. These kids may be subconsciously suppressing that energy of being yelled at from their parents, and they can never, tell their parents don't yell at them, because if your parent is yelling at you 9 times out of 10, they're probably disciplining you as well, and they don't want to experience that. And so that's just an example of subconscious suppression of energy and how it leaks in a child's life as they grow up, And so conscious suppressed energy could look like suppressing emotions around an experience, like serious experience. That memory or that thought or trigger will always be there to remind you that this happened to you, that you felt this way about what happened. And the more that you suppress that, the heavier it becomes to keep down. That energy leak may be expressed in our judgment towards others, towards a certain gender or a certain characteristic. Sometimes we attach a certain appearance or stereotype to our trauma, and we project that onto other people, and it influences the way that we treat others and the way we interact with others. And that's just a way that consciously suppressing energy within yourself, consciously lying to yourself, can affect and leak out on others who have nothing to do with the root of the problem, right? And so I have my notes, I'm looking down. Sometime when we think we've done so great at forgetting or ignoring, that energy can leak out onto others around us and to other circumstances, and definitely can leak out in our aura, right? And sometimes when parents argue or they're fighting and they haven't really dealt with the emotions surrounding that matter, that energy can leak out onto their kids if kids are involved in that situation. Kids who have suffered from physical abuse or brutal punishment or senseless discipline, more often than not, parents unconsciously take that energy out on their kids, whooping them, yelling at them. It's just so many different ways. It can look so many different ways for a child, and it can even leak in their social lives. Sometimes we go to work, and a coworker or maybe your boss isn't having a good day. It's a rough day, and they're taking it out on others around them. That's an energy leak. You're letting your personal matters. That person is letting their personal matters leak into their work environment onto others who have nothing to do with the actual core, the root of the problem. That is what an energy leak is. So suppressed energy is like unrecyclable waste for the body. It just builds up in your junkyard, unhealthy for your body and your spirit, and it leaks. It leaks when it's full. And it's a hassle when it's consciously suppressed. It's a hassle to keep down, to keep buried, and to keep hidden, because the smell will always be there to remind you, right? And so this old nasty energy leaks from our bodies in ways that do not nourish or benefit us or our surroundings or our friends and family. I encourage you to stop treating your body like a junkyard for filthy energy and release that shit. Let it go. Heal it. It's time to heal. We all just need to turn inward to ourselves and recognize when it's time to take accountability for the things that need to be held accountable for. Sometimes we are at fault for things that we experience with other people, with other situations, and with ourselves. And it's okay to turn inwards toward yourself and say, I'm holding on to some filthy energy, and it's making me be mean to others. It's making me treat others unfair. And I need to work on that for myself. It's okay to say that. So cleanse and treat your body like the temple it is. Don't treat it like a junkyard holding on to this old energy that's leaking out onto other people. It's time to clean the chute, clean that garbage chute, release it. Release all that. And just embrace all of those ugly parts that we don't like to accept. It's time to embrace so that we can understand and eventually release and let it go. And be honest with yourself. Be completely honest with yourself. Stop lying to yourself. Stop consciously suppressing things that you know need to be dealt with, because they're not going anywhere. They're just going to sit right there until one day you decide that, oh my gosh, I need to go sweep around my front porch. Be aware of your energy. Acknowledge your shortcomings. Acknowledge your mistakes. And grow. This is how we grow. This is why this is a safe space, because we have all experienced this. We have all done this in some way, shape, or form. And we all have that opportunity to turn inwards towards ourselves and to become the best version of ourselves, to grow and to heal. So that is all I have to say for today on energy leaks. Energy is contagious. It is super, super contagious, and I feel that we should treat it as such. We should be mindful of the energy that we're putting out onto others, onto situations, maybe even onto our own businesses and ideas, because we could be plaguing them. Be mindful. Be more mindful. So thank you for joining me for this conversation at the pond. I kept it a little short today. Hopefully you gained something that was helpful for you or helpful for you to understand something or someone else that you may be dealing with right now. Thank you for tuning in. Peace to you. Namaste.